In the silent black of deep space, far beyond any known trade route, a small alien ship floated helplessly. Its silver body was torn and bruised, as if it had been dragged through fire and storms. Inside, 6 aliens worked quickly, their voices tight with fear. The engines were dead. The power was failing. Their shields were nearly gone. One more hit from the radiation storm nearby, and they would all be dead. They had sent a distress signal hours ago. No one answered. The stars around them remained cold and still. No ship came. No help arrived. They were alone, drifting near the edge of a deadly black hole. The crew had stopped talking now. Their leader, Captain Joran, stared at the glowing event horizon outside. It looked like a dark eye watching them, ready to swallow everything. He knew there was no escape. Not with the ship in this condition. They were too close, too broken. He gave no orders. There was nothing left to do. The crew simply waited for the end. Then, something moved. A small blip appeared on their cracked screen. A ship. Just one. Old, slow, and moving directly toward them. At first, they thought it was a mistake. Who would come this far out? But the signal was clear. It was a human vessel, and it was coming fast. Inside that ship, a man sat alone in the captain's chair. His name was Eric Juno. He was thin, pale, and tired. His hands shook as he moved the controls. Radiation sickness had taken over his body long ago. His ship was old, worn out, and barely held together. The systems coughed sparks. Panels flickered on and off. Warning lights never stopped blinking. But Eric didn't care. He had heard the alien signal, weak and full of static, and he turned his ship toward it. He knew the risk. He knew the black hole could pull him in. He knew his ship might not survive, but he went anyway. He remembered what it felt like to be ignored. Years ago, during a supply mission, Eric had been stranded on a dead moon. No one came for days. He nearly died there. And that memory stayed with him. So now, when someone else called for help, even if they were aliens, even if it meant death, he answered. As Eric's ship reached the damaged alien vessel, he opened a communication channel. "I'm here," he said. "Don't panic. I'm going to pull you out." The alien captain stared at the screen in shock. "But you're alone," Zoran said. "You'll die if you try." Eric smiled weakly and said, "Maybe. But you'll live. That's enough for me." Eric linked his ship to theirs using old magnetic clamps. Then he turned all power toward reverse thrust. His ship groaned under the pressure. Sparks shot from the control panels. Smoke filled the room. The engines screamed. Alarms blared. The black hole's pull was strong, like a giant invisible hand trying to drag them both in. But Eric didn't stop. The alien crew held their breath as the human vessel slowly began to pull them away from the edge. Inch by inch, the tether between life and death grew stronger. Eric coughed blood into his hand. He could barely see now, his vision blurring. But he kept one hand on the controls, pushing the throttle harder than it had ever gone before. Inside the alien ship, the crew cried out as the stars outside began to shift. They were moving away from the black hole, slowly, painfully, but they were moving. Eric's ship shook violently. Warnings screamed louder. Temperature rising, hull failing, reactor unstable. Eric whispered, "Come on, just a little more." Then, the alien ship broke free. The gravitational pull weakened. They were out. But Eric's ship didn't stop shaking. Systems burst into flame. The control board exploded in front of him. He had no time left. No fuel. No power. He looked at the screen and smiled as he saw the alien ship drifting safely away. The last thing he said before the blast took him was a whisper no one heard. "You're safe now." His ship exploded in silence. In space, there is no sound, just a sudden flash of light, and then nothing. Pieces of the human vessel scattered across the dark. The alien crew stared through their windows in horror, unable to understand what had just happened. One of them began to cry. Another pressed their hands together in a silent prayer. Captain Joran stood frozen. He didn't know why a dying human had given everything for them. He didn't know Eric's name. He didn't know his story. But in that moment, he made a promise. He placed his hand on the glass and said softly, "We will not forget." That was the day a legend began. Not one written in history books, not one praised by governments, but a story passed between ships, across planets, in whispers and quiet toasts. A story of a man who gave everything for those he didn't even know. And far away, in places even Joran had never seen, someone else was listening. Someone who would not forget either. Years passed, but the story of the dying human who saved an alien ship refused to disappear. It spread like smoke across the stars. First, it was shared between captains in hidden spaceports, then whispered in alien homes near distant suns. No one knew the full truth. Some said the human had been a soldier. Others believed he was a fallen commander from a forgotten war. But everyone remembered one thing: the name Eric Juno, the man who gave his life to pull strangers from the mouth of death. Captain Joran never forgot. The day Eric's ship exploded, something changed inside him. He was not the same commander anymore. His crew noticed it too. Joran, once hard and cold, now spoke with a new weight in his voice. He had seen honor where he never expected it, and he wanted to do more than just survive. The Galactic Union never knew what Eric had done. No medals, no records, just silence. Humans had moved on. There were too many other stories, too many wars, too many heroes. Eric became a forgotten name in a long list of casualties. But far across the stars, in places humans had never reached, someone remembered. One day Joran stood before a wide hall filled with aliens of all shapes and colors. He spoke not as a commander, but as a witness. "We owe a debt to a dying man who owed us nothing," he said. "He had every reason to turn away, but he didn't. He gave everything so we could live. We must never forget that." His words were simple, but the hall remained silent for a long time. Then, slowly, one by one, heads nodded. A quiet promise was made, not to repay with words, but with action. In the years that followed, a new network began to form in the dark corners of space. Not official, not legal, just a group of ships and captains who remembered Eric's sacrifice. They called themselves the Silent Flame. They wore no uniforms, flew no flags, but they shared one rule. When a human ship is in danger, we answer. Most of them had never met a human. Some had only heard stories. But to them, the act mattered more than the face. They trained quietly, repaired old ships, collected messages from distant systems. They kept track of human colonies, patrol routes, and conflict zones. And they waited. Then one day the call came. A human colony on the edge of Orion space sent out a distress signal. Pirates, fast, brutal, and well-armed, were attacking. The local human defense force was too far away. No one could reach them in time. But the signal was strong, and it carried the same fear Joran had once felt when his ship drifted near the black hole. Captain Joran, older now but still sharp, read the message carefully. His ship, the Kylmar, was ready. He turned to his crew, many of whom had been with him during that black day so long ago. "Prepare to jump," he said. "We're answering." The crew moved quickly. No one asked why. They already knew. As the Kylmar entered hyperspace, other ships received the same call. Across light years, old members of the Silent Flame rose from the shadows. Cargo freighters changed course. Scout ships turned off cloaks. Fighters left asteroid fields. A dozen ships. Then 24, then more. What started as a whisper became a storm. Each of them moved toward the same place, one small human colony under attack. They didn't know the people there. They didn't ask for payment. They remembered Eric Juno. Meanwhile, on the human colony, chaos had broken out. Buildings were burning. Families hid underground. The local guards were outnumbered. Pirate vessels circled the skies like vultures. The command post sent out another message, their voices breaking with fear. "To any ship who hears this, to please. We need help." There was no answer. But high above, past the edge of the colony's sensors, space began to shimmer. Then, one by one, strange ships appeared. Alien vessels, old and new, marked by different species, none of them human. But they came fast and silent, forming a wall between the pirates and the colony. Inside the lead ship, Captain Zoran stood tall. "This is for Eric," he said quietly. Then they opened fire. Space lit up like a storm. Laser beams cut through the darkness, and the silence of the stars was broken by the thunder of battle. The pirates, confident and cruel just moments ago, suddenly found themselves outnumbered by ships they did not recognize. These weren't military, they weren't organized, but they fought with precision, with unity, with rage. The pirates' leader, a thick-scaled brute named Krethar, growled as his screen filled with blinking warnings. "Where did these ships come from?" he shouted. "They're not human! What do they want?" No one had an answer, because even the pirates who had terrorized dozens of systems had never seen a force like this. Alien vessels, big and small, moved together like one mind. A freighter that looked like a mining ship disabled a pirate fighter with a blast to its engines. A sleek insect-like scout weaved between enemy fire, jamming signals and breaking comms. In the middle of the chaos, Captain Zoran's voice echoed across an open channel. "This colony is under our protection. Leave now, or be destroyed." There was silence on the pirate side. Then laughter, harsh and mocking. "Who are you to speak for humans, alien?" Krethar barked back. "We are not afraid of you." Zoran's eyes burned cold. He gave no answer. Instead, he ordered a full strike. The ships of the Silent Flame moved as one. They didn't need perfect strategy. They fought for something stronger than orders. They fought for a memory. Each captain thought of Eric Juno, the human who saved Zoran and his crew, giving his life without asking for anything in return. Now it was time to give something back. The pirates realized too late they were not dealing with a patrol. They were facing people with something to prove. In minutes, the sky turned red. 2 pirate cruisers exploded, torn apart by energy blasts. Escape pods were launched. The remaining pirate ships tried to flee, but the alien vessels chased them, down one by one. Below, in the human colony, families looked up at the flashing lights. The guards, wounded and tired, paused. A young officer named Lena gripped her rifle and whispered, "Who are they?" The comm officer stared at the screen. I don't know. None of their IDs are human, but they're saving us." In the command center, a hologram flickered on. Captain Zoran's face appeared. "This is Captain Zoran of the Kylmar," he said. "Your colony is safe. The threat has been removed." The human governor, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, blinked in shock. "Wait, you're not from Earth? Why are you helping us?" Zoran paused. "A human once saved my life. Long ago. Today, we repay that debt." The governor swallowed hard. "Who?" Zoran's voice was steady. "Captain Eric Juno. He died to save me and my crew. We never forgot." The room went silent. Lena, standing behind the governor, whispered the name to herself. Eric Juno. She didn't know the name. But the way Zoran said it, like a prayer, it didn't matter. It meant something. Later that night, after the fires were put out and the wounded were treated, the sky was filled with ships. Dozens of alien vessels hovered above the colony in silence, not demanding anything, not asking for thanks, just watching. Down on the surface, children pointed. At the ships, people whispered stories. The invaders were gone, but a new question filled the air. Why had strangers come to save them? And in the shadows, as repairs began, Lena opened the old database. She searched for the name, Eric Juno. At first, nothing came up. No medals, no public records. Then, deep in an old forgotten file, she found it. A report from a single ship lost near a black hole. One entry, marked, Final Transmission, Captain Eric Juno. "You will live. That's enough for me." Her eyes filled with tears. Outside, the alien fleet began to drift away, mission complete. But not all of them left. A few ships stayed behind, keeping watch, as if waiting for something more. Something bigger had started. The galaxy was waking up, and the name Eric Juno was no longer forgotten. The next few days were quiet, but something had changed. The human colony on the edge of Sector 91 was no longer forgotten. People fixed their homes and helped each other, but their eyes often looked up at the sky. Ships still floated above, silent watchers from unknown worlds. They came from different planets, different systems, but they all stayed for one reason. They remembered Eric Juno. Lena sat at the edge of the colony's landing pad, staring at the stars. She had read the full report of Eric's final mission. There were only fragments, broken messages, and the last recording from his ship. But it was enough. The story had power. She couldn't stop thinking about it. A ship landed quietly behind her, its lights dim. The door opened with a soft hiss and a figure stepped out. It was not human. Tall, with smooth blue skin and bright yellow eyes, he wore armor made of dark crystal. "You are Lena?" the alien asked in a calm voice. She stood and nodded slowly. "Yes. Who are you?" "I am Torak of the Varn Council. We were part of the Armada that answered the call." Lena looked confused. "Why? Why would all of you come here? For one man who died years ago." Torak's eyes narrowed. "Because he was not just one man. He was the first." She waited. He walked closer, then spoke again. "Many species saw humans as dangerous, as selfish. They take, they expand. But Eric Juno changed that. When he saved Captain Zoran and his crew, he proved something we never expected. He showed us humans can sacrifice, that they care, that they are worth saving." Lena lowered her voice. "But that was just one person. That's all it takes to start a change," Torak said. "Eric planted a seed, and now that seed has grown." Lena looked around at the other ships still hovering above. "So, what now? Why are you still here?" Torak glanced at the sky. "Because something is coming." She turned quickly. "What do you mean?" Torak looked back at her, serious. "The pirates were just the beginning. A larger force is moving through this sector. We followed them here. They are not after resources. They are not after control. They want revenge against humans." Lena's blood ran cold. "Why?" Torak's voice was heavy. "Because humans are rising. Fast. And some in the galaxy fear what you will become." She stood quietly for a long moment, trying to take it in. Then she asked, "So you came to help us again?" Torak nodded. "This time, we don't just owe a life. We owe a future. If we let you fall now, Eric's sacrifice means nothing." In the next hour, Lena called a meeting with the colony's leaders. The alien captains joined via holograms. They shared intelligence, maps, intercepted messages, ship movements. A large force was coming from the edge of known space, a dark fleet built from stolen technology. And at its head, a warlord named Varrock, who once lost to humans and never forgave it. "They are not just coming for this colony," Zoran said. "They want to destroy the legacy Eric left behind." Lena spoke up. "Then we fight." There was silence. Then Torak nodded. "The aliens agreed to train the humans. They shared shield technology, ship upgrades, and advanced weapons. For days, both sides worked side by side. Pilots trained together. Engineers exchanged ideas. No one slept much. There wasn't time. One night, Lena stood outside the command tent, looking at the stars again. Her father, once a military officer, had always told her that allies only came when they needed something. But now, watching dozens of alien species working to protect humans, she felt something different. This was loyalty. Real loyalty. Born from one man's last breath. She opened the recording of Eric Juno one more time. His voice cracked with pain, but stayed steady. "You will live. That's enough for me." Lena closed her eyes and whispered, "Now it's our turn." Suddenly, alarms sounded. A scout ship had just sent a final message before it was destroyed. The Dark Fleet had entered the sector, and they were heading straight for the colony. The warning had come in just seconds before silence. One human scout ship, small and fast, had tried to fly close to the enemy fleet. Its pilot managed to send a short message, 3 words, before all contact was lost. "They are here." The entire colony froze. Lights flashed across the settlement. Sirens echoed from the walls. Defense teams ran to their posts. Children were taken underground into reinforced shelters. Soldiers, both human and alien, locked armor into place. Weapons ready. From the command tower, Lena stood with her hands shaking slightly. On the main screen, the Dark Fleet came into view. Dozens of warships, black and silent, sliding across space like shadows with teeth. There were no lights, no signals, no signs of diplomacy. Just a slow and steady approach, like a beast that didn't need to rush. The Varn leader, Torak, watched from beside her. They are not testing us. They are coming to destroy. Lena nodded. Then we don't wait. We meet them head on. Outside the colony, ships began to rise. Fighters in tight formations took their place in the sky. Human pilots flew beside, alien veterans. The engines of both fleets hummed together in a rare sound, unity. The old colony, once ignored, now stood as the center of something powerful. From orbit, Captain Joran's voice came through the comms. Remember the name Eric Juno. Remember what he gave. We are the answer to his final breath. We do not break. A human pilot laughed softly into his mic. Let's make them regret coming here. And then the first enemy blast came. A red beam of energy sliced through a nearby asteroid. It shattered like glass. The Dark Fleet opened fire, sending a wave of destruction straight toward the colony. In response, the new Allied fleet surged forward. Shields glowed. Lasers lit the sky. The battle had begun. Lena ran to the war table, her eyes following dozens of ships on the display screen. Group 3, flank from the eastern ridge. Group 7, protect the main tower. If they take our command post, we're done. She barely finished her sentence before the colony walls shook from impact. A group of dark fighters had broken through the first defense line. Ground soldiers rushed to meet them. Alien warriors fought beside human. Marines in the dust and smoke. Inside one of the underground shelters, a small boy looked up at the ceiling. He could hear the distant battle above, the echoes of war shaking the walls. His mother held his hand tightly. "Will we be okay?" he asked softly. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "There's a man who died to save strangers, and now those strangers came back to protect us. That means something." Outside, near the east wall, 3 human tanks locked fire on an enemy dropship. Torak led the charge, his crystal armor glowing with energy. Behind him, 2 Varn soldiers and a human sniper took down wave after wave of attackers. Every move was sharp. Every step was earned. Still, the enemy kept coming. More ships dropped from the Dark Fleet, flooding the battlefield. A large walker, 10 meters tall, landed near the colony's power center. It charged its weapon, a massive plasma cannon. Lena called into her comm. "All units, priority target marked, walker near the reactor. If it fires, we lose power and shields." Joran responded. "I'm on it." His ship dove from the sky, engines screaming, lasers lighting up the target. But the walker's shield was strong, too strong. Then a small human fighter broke formation. The pilot, an older man with only one working engine, made a decision. "Tell Lena. Tell her this. One's for Eric." And he crashed his ship straight into the walker's weapon core. The explosion was blinding. The walker fell, torn in half. The power center was saved. The colony still stood. Lena stared at the screen, her throat tight. She whispered, "They're giving everything." Torak nodded beside her. Just like Eric did. By nightfall, the enemy had pulled back slightly, but only to regroup. The sky was filled with smoke trails and wreckage. Bodies were being pulled from the battlefield, human and alien alike. The cost was heavy, but the defense had held. For now, Joran's voice crackled over the comm again. "They will come again, stronger. They were testing us." Lena leaned forward. "Then next time, we hit back harder." In the dark, above the world, the enemy fleet watched and waited. And deep inside the largest ship, Varrock, the warlord, behind the attack, stood in silence. He stared at the footage of the crash, the sacrifice, the combined resistance. He growled, "This is not over." And the stars outside trembled with what was still to come. The next sunrise never came. Heavy clouds covered the sky, and smoke from the battlefield still floated in the air. Pieces of ships and machines lay scattered across the land. Fires burned quietly in the distance, while the survivors worked to bury their dead and prepare for what was coming next. Inside the colony command room, Lena stood over a map full of blinking red marks. Each one was an enemy ship, each one moving closer. She didn't speak for a while. Her fingers trembled as she touched one dot after another. They're surrounding us. Not just here. They're circling every world we've touched. Torak stepped beside her. We bought time, not victory. A message arrived then. It was from an old outpost near the star system that first sent the alien distress signal years ago. The signal was weak, broken by static, but the voice was clear. They found the children's world. They're bombing it. Everyone in the room went silent. Joran's ship had just returned from orbit. His face on the screen looked older, harder. We must go now. We can't protect every place, but we can save the ones that can't fight back. Lena looked around the room, then at the wall where a small plaque hung. On it were only 4 words. He saved without asking. The crew knew what to do. Within the hour, ships were loading. Up again. Broken parts were patched, weapons reloaded. No one rested. No one hesitated. On the other side of space, on a green world full of forests and soft rivers, children played near large trees. They were alien and human. Children both. Survivors from destroyed colonies. They laughed under the sky. Until that sky turned dark. The first shadow ship appeared above them like a ghost. No lights, no sound. Then came the fire. Explosions hit the outer fields. Schools turned to rubble. The children screamed as caretakers ran to shield them with their bodies. But before the enemy could finish, the sky tore open with light. Allied ships jumped in at full speed. Human war cruisers, Varn frigates, and smaller support craft flew in tight formations. Their engines screamed like thunder. Lena's voice was the first to speak across every speaker on the ground. Evacuate the children. Get them to the lower caves. Hold this ground. Fighter ships dropped shields to protect the escape tunnels. Joran's vessel moved into the center of the battlefield, taking all the hits. His ship's hull cracked, but he kept firing, refusing to turn away. In the forest, a small alien girl tripped while running. An explosion shook the trees, and a burning piece of metal fell toward her. She closed her eyes, but it never hit. A human soldier had thrown himself in front of her. His body burned as he pushed her to safety. She looked back at his face. He smiled just once and whispered, "You'll live. That's enough." The same words Captain Eric Juno had once said. Above them, the battle reached its peak. A giant enemy carrier had dropped low, aiming its largest weapon toward the caves. If it fired, hundreds of children would die. Torak gave the order. Focus. Fire! Take that ship down! But their weapons weren't enough. The carrier's shields held strong. Then, from the far edge of space, another jump signature appeared. A massive ship, bigger than any in the Allied fleet, came through. Its hull carried markings no one recognized. It didn't send a name, no message. But it opened fire with weapons the others had never seen. Blue fire that cut through the enemy carrier in one blast. Everyone stared. Joran whispered, "Who are they?" The answer came seconds later, through an old, low voice over open comms. "We were once saved by a dying man. We never forgot. Our kind is not many, but we owe him a life debt." Lena leaned forward. "What do you call yourselves?" There was silence. Then the voice replied, "We are the Juno Guard." A new fleet had joined. Another species Eric had once helped, long ago. Unknown to the others, they had watched from the shadows, building strength. And now they had come, not for war, but for him. The enemy fleet began to retreat. The combined power of the new alliance had pushed them back. The children's world was safe, for now. But as silence returned, Lena knew the war was far from over. She stood at the edge of a destroyed hill, staring into the sky. They're running, but not gone. Torak nodded beside her. They'll come again, with more, with worse. Lena touched the badge on her chest. It had the symbol of Eric's ship, the one that had died pulling strangers out of the dark. she whispered. Then, we'll be ready, because so many have returned, for one man, and now, we fight for all of them. A quiet sadness filled the stars. The war had paused, but it wasn't over. The galaxy was holding its breath. Across many worlds, stories of Captain Eric Juno had spread like fire. People who had never met him spoke his name. Children drew his ship on their walls. Old soldiers remembered what it meant to stand for something bigger than themselves. Lena stood before a large table, surrounded by commanders from a dozen species. Maps floated above them, glowing in the air. Each one showed the same thing: enemy forces gathering again. They had retreated, yes, but now they were planning something worse, something final. This time, Lena said, they're not coming to destroy one world. They're coming to erase the Alliance itself. Joran crossed his arms. They will strike our center, cut off our leaders, break our will. Torak nodded. We must hit first. But no one in that room had the firepower for it. Not even with the Juno Guard. Then, an old signal pinged from the edge of a forgotten solar system. It was weak, covered in static. But inside it was a message, a location, a password. It came from Eric's ship. Everyone froze. That ship was destroyed, Lena whispered. Joran tapped the message again. No. It sent this before it died. A delay signal. A secret he left behind. The message led to a hidden asteroid, deep in the shadow of a dying star. Inside it, the Alliance found something Eric had built long before he ever met the aliens. A weapon? A trap? No. It was something else. A ship. Larger than anything in the human fleet. A prototype Eric had designed but never used. Hidden away, never finished. But now it waited in silence. Its name was written across the side in sharp, bold letters. The Mercy's Fire. And inside its core, a single AI voice activated. Captain Eric Juno, deceased. Emergency protocol, activated. Purpose: protect those who cannot protect themselves. It was like he had planned this moment. Not with weapons, but with hope. The crew quickly boarded the ship. Engineers worked without sleep. Soldiers loaded supplies. And on the day the enemy fleet returned, blackening the stars with their endless ships, the Mercy's Fire rose from its cradle. Lena stood at the command seat. Let's show them what Mercy looks like when it fights back. The final battle began. Enemy cruisers opened fire first. Red beams cut through space. Dozens of Alliance ships took damage, but they held formation. Human fighters moved through. Tight turns. Varn battleships flanked from the sides. But it was the Mercy's Fire that broke their lines. It moved with quiet power, shields glowing like blue flames. Its weapons were different, designed not just to kill, but to disable. To force surrender. The enemy didn't understand it. They fired harder, sent boarding pods, sent assassin drones. But one by one, the Mercy's Fire turned them all away, and then came the final move. The enemy flagship, a giant fortress in space, charged its doomsday cannon. If it fired, thousands of Alliance ships would fall. Lena knew there was only one chance. She looked at her crew. No words, just a nod. The Mercy's Fire charged forward, straight at the enemy cannon. Every screen in the fleet saw it. And at that moment, something happened that no one expected. Hundreds of ships, not Alliance ships, jumped into the system. Old ships, scavenger ships, medical freighters, tiny patrol crafts, even old pirate vessels. All of them had the same symbol painted across their hulls, a small silver flame. Each one had once been touched by Eric Juno, saved, warned, helped, inspired. And now, they had come to stand with him. One last time. The enemy cannon tried to fire, but before it could, those ships crashed into it. Not to destroy, but to block, to shield the others, to give the Mercy's Fire one last clean shot. Lena gave the order. Now, the beam fired. The enemy flagship exploded in silence. The heart of their army, gone, and the enemy broke, scattered, defeated. Across the stars, silence fell. The war was over. Weeks later, a monument was built. Not of stone, but of light. Floating in space, at the very spot where Eric's ship had exploded all those years ago. People came from across the galaxy. They brought flowers, medals, gifts, but most of them just came to look up at the light and remember a man who had given everything, without ever asking for anything in return. Lena stood at the front. She touched the base of the monument and whispered, "He didn't just save lives, he changed us, made us better, gave us a reason to be more." Joran stepped forward. "He made strangers into brothers." Torak raised a glass. "To the dying man, who started a living legacy." And across the galaxy people spoke. One name, one story, one truth. That sometimes the smallest act of kindness can echo forever through the stars.